Welcome to the UIAAA Connection podcast. Hometown Ticketing is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection podcast and to provide schools nationwide with the best options for digital ticketing for their events. Visit their website at hometownticketing.com to learn how they can make digital ticketing possible and simple at your school. Thank you to Hometown Ticketing for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection podcast.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch-Hunter. Today, our guest from the NIAAA office is Nellie Crocker. And I should have asked you this ahead of time. Are you the Director of Membership, or what's your official title?
I am now the Certification and Membership Manager.
Okay. Well,
it's changed a few times since I've been here, but That's where we are right now.
Let's have you start, Nellie, by sharing with our audience here in Utah and across the nation where you grew up, where you went to college, your first job, those types of things.
Yeah, I grew up in Indiana, in central Indiana, called Anderson. If you are familiar with Indiana, you know we're hardcore basketball fans. So my high school actually had the second largest gym in Indiana at the time, only beat out by Newcastle, which is, if you know Mike Elson, that's where he went to high school. So,
well, the crazy thing about you just mentioned, Mike Elson was on the podcast maybe 3 weeks ago, and he mentioned that he had the largest gym. And so now 3 weeks later, I've got the person with the second largest.
Second largest. It's closed, unfortunately, now, but it was so much fun to go to, you know, as a kid and get to play in high school. But my parents both drove and still do drive school buses. So I was always the first kid, you know, on and off the bus going to school, unless I had practice, which I normally did after school. But after high school, I went to Taylor University on a basketball scholarship, and I graduated in 2012 with a degree in public relations. And then my first job after college, my first official job was at, like the Party City, or like where you go to get your balloon bouquets and discount cards. That was my very first job. I did balloon bouquets and, you know, did the cash register at the Party City. So that was fun.
Not anything that pays the bills, I guess, right?
Yeah, it was about, $200 every month. I think it's about what I got. So it was enough for gas to, and maybe like a Ricker Pop or something, But
and where was the store? Was it right in your hometown where you grew up, or was it in Indianapolis?
Yeah, it was in Anderson. It's about a 35-minute drive on the interstate to get to Indianapolis. So it was always a big deal if we ever went to Indy. So we stayed pretty local in Anderson.
Well, you mentioned you played collegiately basketball. Talk about where you spent your youth in sports in your high school in sports.
Yeah. I don't really remember a time when I wasn't involved in sports. I think I started when I was 4 or 5 with the YMCA team. I've always been taller than everyone around me. So it was it was a natural step. My parents both played high school sports. I know my mom held the rebounding record at her high school for a long time. I think it was recently broken, but so I started when I was super young, and I didn't stop until college. So I played for my school teams from 3rd grade when I was eligible through my senior year. And then I also played travel basketball with AAU that whole time as well. So, and then in middle school, I joined the volleyball team. So I was a dual athlete at that point, and then continued that through my senior year also. But my freshman year of high school, I didn't play volleyball that year, but I did freshman JV and varsity basketball all in. So I was like, wherever
how many games do you play in a week?
Oh gosh, I think it was like every other day I had some kind of game. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, but it was busy.
So power forward or center, or a combination of both?
Yep, okay. I was always a post, number 5.
Played with your back to the basket.
Yeah, I wasn't fast enough or talented outside of the paint. So I really stuck to my strong suit and stayed inside the paint.
And so you played well enough to get yourself a scholarship to college, so you had that paid for, so that obviously paid off for you.
Yeah, it was a partial scholarship to a private school, so it was still not not great, but it was a really good fit for me. The school was wonderful. Justin Chapman, our copywriter in the office, also went to Taylor, so he can vouch for that as well. But it was a really fun experience. So I played for 3 years at Taylor. I had some injuries during those years and ended up not playing my senior year, but I did get to play volleyball and football my senior year on the intramural teams, and we won the league in both of those. So that's
awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. You mentioned your parents earlier. Maybe mention some other people in your life, teachers, coaches, obviously your parents that have been a mentor for you and helped you along your path to where you are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, my parents played sports and they were always very encouraging. Never forced me into anything, but if I signed up for something, I was committed to that for the season. They followed me everywhere, all over the country. There was one year for AAU that we had a tournament in Texas. And so my whole family came, my grandparents came, and we ended up doing like a tour of the West, a driving tour after that tournament was over. So it really opened a lot of doors just for us to have fun as a family. But yeah, parents were definitely inspirational. I had, any coach that you play for is obviously going to have a big impact on your life at that, that season that you're in. But I had one coach specifically that I had really from third grade through my senior year. He was amazing. He was my AAU coach, but he also was a JV coach at the high school. So I got to have him, double whammy. But he was really great and just like was always empathetic and loved everyone and was kind. And just that energy that he had was so contagious, that I still feel like that's, if I were to coach now, that's the kind of coach that I would want to be, was the way that he was.
Thank you. Let's talk for a moment about how you came to work at the NIAAA. Was it just an application out there? Did someone say, hey, look, this job is open? Were you recruited or were you looking to change jobs? How exactly did that happen?
Yeah, I was at it right after college. I got a job in a marketing department at a local hospital in Anderson. And I had a great experience there. I was there for 4 years, I think, and just kind of got to a point where I knew I had reached, the end of my road with that. There wasn't really any more for me to learn, which is big for me. I always want to be learning and growing and just pursuing growth and greatness. So I had kind of reached that point there. I knew it was time for a change, and I went to my college's job board, and Mike had posted this. I think he has maybe a daughter-in-law or a son-in-law that went to Taylor, so they posted it on the job board. And I found it, and I was in high school. I was a student assistant for our athletic director, at least 2 of the years, maybe 3. And I loved that. I loved being in the office and being around him and around the coaches and the student athletes. So I knew that when I saw this job open up that I would be with my people. Like I grew up with this type of person, with coaches and with people who care about everyone that they're around. So I just knew that it would be a good fit for me. So it was kind of I had never done anything with membership management. That's what I was officially hired for. So I was more looking for the right fit for a company and not necessarily the skill set fit. I think anybody can learn any skill, but just finding the right culture fit was important for me. And we definitely found that here.
So I assume there was quite a few applicants. Clearly you were a finalist because clearly you got the job.
Yeah, I haven't really talked to them about that. I know that they've always said that they just prayed for the right person. They only needed one right applicant, and I was apparently that person. So
well, that's
yeah,
great.
I'm happy
I
to
know
be able
that
to help you guys, get student athletes to succeed and be a small part of that.
well, you're a major part of that. I know, speaking from the NEDC, everybody in the NEDC loves you because how much more streamlined the membership process is now than how it used to be. Let's talk for a moment, Nellie, about the job of athletic administrator and just the changes you see in an AD just since you've been at the NIAAA for what, 4 years now? 5 years?
It'll be 6 and next
6,
month.
okay.
Yeah. I don't really think it's changed a ton. Obviously, COVID has changed something for everyone, not just athletic directors, but even when I was in high school, I think my athletic director was doing a lot of the same things that you are now. But I will say it's every day I'm fascinated at how you all are able to balance so many roles, like all of the administrative roles that you have to do and the people that you have to be involved in, but you're still maintaining meaningful relationships with your students and with your coaches. And even just, I think, like, parents, coaches, and teachers are some of the 3 most influential groups as we're growing up. And just the fact that you guys get to have the privilege of being in lives the way that you are, but you all handle it so well and so gracefully while you're still doing your other job, I think is really fun for me to watch.
Well, tell me how fun it is. I assume most days, but I can only imagine the amount of calls you get, obviously, because I call probably 2 times a week. So I can't imagine the calls you get from other executive directors from states, and then the amount of calls you would get just from members throughout the country. I would think it's got to be what, 30, 40 a day minimum?
I think our office would get that. Yeah. Personally, I probably get 10 a day, I would say. And that changes, like in which season we're in. So right now, everybody is getting ready for their conference. So membership is a big part of that, and certification is a big part of that, which is now my role. So there are the phone calls kind of ebb and flow depending on the season that we're in.
Reflect on your time at the NIAAA and maybe share a couple of stories, either from the office or the conference or both, that you look back in fondness with. Clearly the amount of people you've been able to meet, I was going to say across the United States, but of course internationally now, since you've got some international members. So share some of those experiences with us.
Yeah, absolutely. My time here has been one of major growth and change. Like I mentioned, that's something I always want to be pursuing. And Mike and Phil have really supported me in that and allowed me to explore so many different areas of work that our office has, and find ways that I can use my gifts while also expanding the NIAAA's capacity to serve our members. So I think I started as only the membership manager, and then I added on communications. So I was handling, email and social media and anything that was communicated out. Then I added systems manager. So when we, went virtual and we had Zoom and we had all these new systems that we had to rely on, I kind of managed all of that. And then the conference app was added on, and then online course development. And now I am kind of settled currently in certification and membership. So it's been fun that, as we expand our staff, I can take what I've learned and hand that off to someone else that's more capable than I am. So right now, Justin is taking all of the communications and social media responsibilities, and he is way more capable than I was and am. And I'm excited to see how he takes it and runs with it and grows in that area and kind of launches off the things that I started, and just like the way that our staff works together, we have such a great team environment, and we all have an athletic background, so that helps to facilitate that team mentality. But when you want to talk about stories, one of my favorite ones was when they were interviewing me, and I told them, I was like, I really don't know what you do. I don't know what the NIAAA is. I don't know what any of these words mean on the website. And I said that I would love the opportunity to fix that and to make it a lot more approachable and easier for people to understand what you do. And then, 2 years, or no, I think in 2019 we did it. So 3 years after I was hired, I had the opportunity to revamp the website. So that was a lot of fun to kind of see that all come full circle.
Share a couple of stories, if you would, from the recent conference in Denver. I realized that it had been 2 years since everyone had seen each other in person. And so that
Mhm.
kind of led to an excitement in and of itself. But share a couple of great experiences you had recently, just last December.
Yeah, I think comparatively, my first conference to this one is the relationships are so much more established now than they were that first year, that it's um, we were trying to, push people through registration, and I would have to stop and come out from behind to give somebody a hug because I hadn't seen them in
Yeah,
2 years, or like Jean Ashen was, bringing her treats, and I had to like pause to make sure that I got my hello dollies before she left the registration area.
absolutely.
And just like the fact that we have those relationships now um, is so nice. And that, I know that if I would go to Utah, I would be calling you to see what I need to do in the area and where to go, where to stay, like where to eat, all those things. So that's been a lot of fun to have those connections. But I think primarily for me, the conference is a time for me to be re-energized, because I feel all of the energy and the passion that you guys bring into that convention center. And I feed off of that for the whole year. So I think 2021 was a hard year because we didn't have that opportunity. The virtual conference didn't really provide the same interaction and energy exchange, I guess, that the in-person conference does. So it was fun, and it felt like the energy was double because everybody felt that way. Everybody was so excited to be there and to be networking and collaborating again. So yeah, I think that was my favorite thing every year, and especially this year, was just to kind of have my batteries recharged and ready to go again.
Well said. Talk about maybe some of the challenges you have. I realize, well, we're over 13,000 now. I don't know how close to 14,000 members we have. I mentioned those numbers because I can remember back when I first joined the association, it was in the 4,000 to 5,000 range. But talk about some of the challenges it is to work with members across the United States, and of course, an executive director in each state and a membership chair in each state. Talk about some of those challenges and how that
Yeah,
works.
there aren't really any major challenges. I think everyone that I work with is nice and gracious and patient, and especially when I was first starting and when I have all these, crazy ideas to try something new, everybody supports me and is on board, and I really appreciate that. And I think now when I'm in this role with certification, I have the unique opportunity to experience and to see every single person that gets certified, and to celebrate that with them. And I know Cheryl had told me before she left that that's the best part, like when you send out the press releases and everybody's support system. So their superintendent and their principal are responding back to you to say, like, we're so proud of this individual. So it's a lot of fun to do that. I think the only challenge I can really think of is, I think everybody assumes that every state works the same way. So they'll, call and say, what do I need to do to, become an athletic director? Or if I get certified, is that going to boost my pay? And I'm like, I don't know. I can't help you with that. I can connect you with somebody. I can send you to your executive director in your state, and they can walk you through what your state requires. But I think everybody expects every state to work the same, or that we set the standard for that, which is not. Everybody obviously has their own process and their own just way to make sure that everybody is professionally growing. And that's probably the biggest challenge and a frustration, that I can't help those people. I have to send them off and not give them help immediately.
Nellie, let me ask you a follow-up question on what you just mentioned. I know I spoke to you earlier today. I'm on my way up to Capitol Hill here in Salt Lake City to speak to the education subcommittee about a stipend for a certified athletic administrator. Wondering if you have any words of wisdom that you can share with me, because we just found out this morning they're kind of fast tracking the bill, and so I'm a little bit nervous. So
yeah, I got an email about that last week. I think, I don't remember who it was from, but they were asking me for data on the amount of members that were certified in Utah, because they were trying to get this stipend passed through. And I immediately was like, yes, what do you need? Like, anything to get people more money, like, I'm here for. So I don't know. I don't have any specific words of wisdom, but that does sound like you have a lot of people in your court that are trying to support it and make it happen. So I really hope it does. And then
Well, we're
maybe
hoping.
set a precedent for the rest of the country.
I'll share this. I actually spoke with a couple of superintendents. Right now, the bill would fund $145,000 a year for any certified athletic administrator, which would be $2,500 for a CAA, $5,000 for a CMAA. Right now, that total is 38, probably 39, since we just had. I'm trying to think who just took it online here a couple of weeks ago. They just became certified. But this is what I'm going to tell the legislature. Hopefully that they'll listen. If you hired a new teacher for $50,000 a year, and they had a $50,000 budget, that would be like us asking for 33 cents out of the $50,000 budget, which you can't buy a candy bar at 7-Eleven for 33 cents. And so we're hoping that that makes sense along with all the other talking points. But I thought, since you mentioned that, that would be a good point for me to throw it in there and push this, because actually this will broadcast a week from this coming Friday. Well, by the time it broadcasts, so they'll still be in session, and who knows if it will have gone further yet or out of committee or whatever. So thanks for sharing that. Let me ask you if you've got best practices or new ideas or anything from the NIAAA that you can share with our general membership here in Utah and across the US.
Yeah, I think honestly, mostly what I learned comes from you guys. You tell me what you need, and I try to find a way to make that happen, or you tell me what systems are working for you, and I look into making that work for our office too. I will say this kind of merges with the two essential. You're going to ask me a little bit about the two essential things for a new athletic director. I think best practices kind of merge with that, and having a mentor, someone that you can reach out to and ask questions and just pass ideas off of, is really important. And I have had a couple people who will reach out to me and say, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know anybody in my state. And I will just, send them to, I know I had a friend from college who became an athletic director, and I sent him to Fred Smith because I love Fred, and Fred loves helping people. And I knew that he would be a good fit for my friend. So, and this happened with Alex earlier this week. She has a friend in Texas, and they want to become an athletic director. And so she sent her friend to Lisa Langston. And so now they're working together to make sure that they're, connected within their state. So I think if you don't know someone that is experienced in the field and that knows better what they're doing, than what you're doing, that is one of the most essential things that I can recommend.
What's the favorite part of your job working for the NIAAA?
I kind of mentioned it earlier, but just getting to know so many people from so many places. There was I honestly don't remember who it was, but I talked to somebody one time from Colorado, and they gave me a recommendation on, if we ever go for vacation in Colorado, this is where we need to go, and this is what we need to do. And Bryce and I got to do that in December after the Denver conference. And so I would have never known to, go to Steamboat Springs and to go to this restaurant if that person wouldn't have told me. And it was a Post-it note on my board for probably 4 years before it finally happened. But I think just knowing so many people from so many different places, and getting to experience, even with our international members, hearing about the different cultures that they work in. And I don't know, I think that's a lot of fun. But apart from that, I love creating efficiency and finding efficient processes and systems and finding things that work for me and not against me. So I think that's part of the reason why I've moved around so much at the NIAAA, is because I have a task and then I streamline it and I'm, make it work a lot quicker. And so then I have the capacity to do more after that. So I think that's one of the things that I really love, is just finding ways to make things efficient and streamlined.
Well, speaking of efficiency, let me ask you a follow-up question here. I realize that a lot of people will not understand exactly what I'm talking about, but you've got this system now with the membership. I know in Utah, during this time of year, we like to send them off about once every week, but you've got this form, it asks how many members, how many retired, how many new members, that type of a thing. And I'm assuming that works a lot better than I can remember when you first came. It was a little bit more of a laborious process. So talk about this system that obviously you've designed to help with that membership.
Yeah, gladly. When I first started, I was getting typically an envelope with a check and a printed list of every member. Half the time they didn't have an ID number. So I was hand entering ID numbers onto a spreadsheet, and then I was searching for every ID number that wasn't on the spreadsheet, and again, hand typing that in. And a lot of times the amount of money that was sent. So my first step was moving everything digital. I don't like paper. Like, I love living in the world of digital. So if I have paper on my desk, it's a stressful day for me. But I think as soon as that happened, moving things digital, we were able to move a little quicker and get payments processed faster. And then to add on to that, we were having issues where the amount of money that was sent to us in a check did not match the number of people on the list. So there was a lot of, sending refunds or asking for follow-up money, and just making sure that, on the accounting side, all of that was matching up and was accurate. So this form now allows me to look at your list and to verify the amount of people that you've sent to me before you send in your money. So a check or a credit card, I can look and see, like, okay, Mark sent in 5 members and one of them is retired and one's a student, and I can tell you exactly how much you owe based on that. And then you send me the money after I tell you what you owe. So it has cleaned up that significantly, and has saved a lot of time and tracking too, to just make sure that everything is coming through as it should be. But then I also have it all set up with an automatic email. So as soon as you submit a list, you and anybody else that you designate on that form is told that we've received the list and that we'll send you an invoice shortly. And then as soon as the invoice is ready, it's sent to you. And then as soon as the members are entered and paid for, then you're, informed about that as well. So just taking that out of my inbox, I guess, and into an efficient system. We use monday.com. It's been wonderful. So being able to do all of that has saved so much time, but it's also, I think, benefiting the executive directors and the membership chairs and treasurers that I work with, because everybody's communicated with and everybody knows exactly where things are in the process.
Very good. I can't speak highly enough out of it. It's made the job easier for me, and I'm sure easier for everybody else. So let's go back to something you mentioned earlier, something I was going to ask you about.
Yeah.
If you could share 2 items with a new athletic administrator that they would absolutely have to have in order to be successful, what would those 2 things be?
I think, like I said before, a mentor. I know that starting at a new job, even here, was hard until I was able to, firmly connect with Mike and Phil and establish that relationship with them to really understand my job and everything that had come before me and how everything works. So finding a mentor in your area, if you don't have one or if you don't know of anyone, send me an email. I'm more than happy to find someone in your state that you can work with. And then the other part relates to what I just spoke about, was finding good systems. If you have a budget that allows for you to invest money in a system that would make your job easier, it's so worth it, whether that's digital ticketing or, scheduling your referees or your games or anything like that. Having good systems that work for you and not against you will make your life so much easier.
Thanks for sharing that. What questions should I have asked you that I failed to ask, Nellie?
I don't have any. I think you asked very good questions. I can't think of anything.
All right. Well, then that wraps it up for another edition of the UIAAA Connection. Once again, our guest today has been Nellie Crocker, the Certification and Membership Manager in the NIAAA office. Thanks for being on the show today, Nellie.
Thanks, Mark.
For the rest of Our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.